punch some people in the face.
I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
Is fight in Congress, fight in the courts, fight in the streets, fight online, fight at the ballot box.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
When they go low, we kick them.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized up to the right.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Enemies of the state.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Interesting to me to see Democrats who once disparaged, who ignored the violence, I should say, all of a sudden caring about it. But let's not forget what they said previously. Speaker Nancy Pelosi downplaying the violence rocking U.S. cities, ignorantly saying people will do what they do. Jerry Nadler, when asked about Antifa, he said that was a myth that's being spread around Washington, D.C. It's not a myth. In fact, an Antifa individual took the life of an innocent Trump supporter in Portland. You have Rep. Ayanna Pressley saying that she wanted unrest in the streets. Chris Cuomo saying, show me where it says protesters are supposed to be peaceful. I'll give you an idea, Chris, it's the Constitution. Don Lemon saying, quote, the rioting has to stop, Chris, as you know. And I know it's showing up in the polls, it's showing up in the focus groups. It's the only thing right now that's sticking. So now all of a sudden, 90 days later, I from this podium have talked about law and order. The president has talked about law and order repeatedly, but because the polling has shifted, now it's time for the Democrats to deny what they said previously and all of a sudden focus on law and order. I'll leave you with this. That's like the arsonist blaming the firefighter.
Kalhal Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakodash, the blessings to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to the Akim out there pushing his word in all sincerity and all truth. Alright, this is Baraka Bash on the GMS Jamaica camp once more. This lesson is going to be just a response to this video and this article here from the Washington Post that says the U.S. shows all signs of a country spiraling towards political violence. And for brothers watching the videos, watching news, you know, keeping up with what's going on, especially in the United States, there's been unrest, there's been violence, you know, gripping the nation, you know, militia coming out, both black and white militia, you know, violent protests, you know, all over the country, you know, and these things are prophesied, you know, about the destruction of America, about the downfall of America. So I'm just going to read a little bit of this article and then bring out a few precepts and just wrap it up. All right, so it says, in the past 16 weeks, more than 50 drivers have plowed into peaceful protests around the country. Our militants shut down Michigan's legislature. Unidentified law enforcement officers heaved demonstrators into unmarked vans. Security forces in Washington used low-flying helicopters to harass citizens, decrying police brutality. Protesters and police alike have brutalized journalists. Ideologues from left and right have accused of killing political opponents. Should Americans be worried about widespread violence? Yes, political violence in democracies often seems spontaneous. An angry mob launching a pogrom, a lone shooter and assassinating a president. But in fact, the crisis has usually been building for years. and the risk factors, right, are well known. The United States is now walking the last steps on that path. Partisans who would never commit violence themselves are transforming from bystanders to apologists and making excuses for the excess of their side while pointing fingers across the aisle. Particularly striking have been the inflammatory statements of Republican politicians giving the influence leaders' words carry. Of course, they are simply mimicking President Trump, who is most responsible for setting the kindling flame. And you see how Basham Yawashai that's kindling this flame of violence, yo. Right? And it's gonna end up in massive civil unrest and race wars in the United States, yo. That's what's coming to America, yo. Right? So I was going to read a few precepts. I won't read the entire article. I'll post it in post-production so brothers can read it. All right, just going to read a couple precepts and then wrap it up. This is Revelation chapter 18 and verse 20. It says, "Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for Yahweh hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it down into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall not be found no more at all." All right. Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 8, "Because thou hast spoiled many nations, and all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land and of the city and all that dwell therein." Right? So Babylon is going to be thrown down with violence, yo. And ultimately that violence is going to culminate, in them being destroyed with thermonuclear fire, which is going to be fired upon them by not just their enemies, but their allies, yo. NATO, members of NATO and the EU will also fire on America, yo. Right, and we see that that conflict between America and their allies, growing over the past few years, yo. Right, particularly due to economic policies, that America has enforced, right, which are crippling to their allies. Right, so we see these things coming, and we know that America will go down, violently, yo. Right, so Kalalal Yahweh Bashem Yawashai Bashem Rakah Kodash for fulfilling his prophecies, and making his prophets faithful, yo. Right, and Kalalal Yahweh Bashem Yawashai for giving me the spirit to do this lesson. Shalom Akim.